Hello everybody, it's Tim here again, here another movie review, this time for The Wolfman, directed by Leigh Whannell. Now, this is a film that had a lot of hype behind it, at least from some people in the horror community that I saw online, because seems to be a lot of people in the horror community who are like big fans of Leigh Whannell. Personally, I think he's a good director. I do not think he's a great director. No film he's made has like blown me away or anything. Like, I like the Invisible Man movie. I like that it was kind of metaphorical or whatever for, or like an allegory for like abusive relationships and all that. But I didn't love it. I thought it was good. At the same time, it's a little hokey, like a Lifetime movie type setup that this dude with like not only been abusive, but he's also like a super scientist who created this invisible suit that he can use to stalk his girlfriend. It's like, okay, you're getting a little ridiculous there. That one was good. It wasn't great. I think that's probably his best film. He did Insidious 3, I believe, which was just like kind of mediocre. And then he also did Upgrade, which I liked. I thought it was good. And once again, some people in the horror community think it was great. Personally, I'm like, it's good, guys. It's not amazing. And this film right here, I will say, from this film, I think it's slightly well. I'd say this is his weakest. I was either between this and Insidious 3, but I would say this is the weakest because it's not really a Wolfman film. This is really not a Wolfman film. He uses the Wolfman name and kind of a little bit of the lore, kind of, but it's not really a Wolfman movie. This really would have been better off just being its own creature feature. Like the design of the Wolfman, I don't like. I get what they're going for. He wants to be a more grounded take on the Wolfman. Like I get it. For what it is in terms of the look for the main werewolf we get. I had a hair in my mouth, sorry. For the main werewolf we get, it's okay for what they're kind of going for, even though it's not really great or even good. When the father transforms eventually in the movie, he looks bad when you see a lot of it. The movie also, it's clunky in the way it's put together. It wants to be kind of a metaphor for like kind of toxic masculinity, about like man, being men's like primordial, like their animalistic side, where it was more of like the savage, where it was like the protector and all that. It kind of wants to do away with that. It's kind of painting that in like a bad light because it's trying to be like a take on toxic masculinity a little bit, but it's clunky in the way it does it. It wants to be a take on that at the same, like it's trying to say that we don't really need that side of men or whatever in like the modern world and the world we have now. That's what it's kind of trying to say. But it's clunky in the way it executes it, because we get this scene at the beginning or whatever where the dad is like taking his son out hunting, and the dad is like trying to be like ultra protective towards his son, and of course the son eventually we see in the future when it does skips years later, he's the modern dad or whatever. But he's trying to protect his son. There's also this mutant werewolf type creature or whatever out there. It looks, you get little glimpses of it. I will say the directing of this is good in terms of like the horror scenes and the suspense scenes. This is much more of a thriller movie than it is a werewolf movie. I'm not sure if this was rated R. It really feels more like a bit of a hard PG-13 or slight hard PG-13. Like this could really easily be PG-13 if it is rated R. I'm not sure. It feels like PG-13. But he's like chasing after them or whatever the werewolf creature is, and he's like, they're like hiding in top of like this deer perch, I guess what you call it, like a hunting thing. It's made in trees and you shoot the deer from above. They're kind of hiding in there, and you get that, and they survive, but you get the idea that the dad is kind of like an overly strict asshole where he's trying to protect his son or whatever. You get the idea that he's a helicopter parent basically, so it does become kind of clunky because you don't get enough of an idea of like, why is he so overprotective like towards his son, why is he like this. Like he talks about, you don't want to lose the person you love because it could happen at any time or whatever. So I got the idea that maybe like his wife died or something, and that's the reason he's like this. Like he lost his wife, so he's become like overbearing and overly like masculine and toxic because of that situation. So in a sense, his dad would be like a victim. I thought that's maybe what they were going for, but they never really delve into it. You never see the mother, and I believe I heard that it was like a deleted scene that she was originally in. I'm not for sure, but then they do the time skip, and the dad has been like legally declared dead, which you know where this is going. By the end the dad's going to be like turn out to be the werewolf, the one that's coming after them. And when he shows back up and he's been killed finally, and he's got the same tattoo in his arm that his dad had, just like, okay, we get it. But at the same time, where the movie is flawed and clunky in its messaging, as we get like the kid from the beginning, he's growing up, he's the dad now, and his daughter's like acting up basically and doing something dangerous in the city, walking on these like, I believe, trash cans or something, and almost getting like run over or could potentially fall off and get hurt or get run over, and he like yells at her to get off there because she won't listen to him, so he has no choice but to raise his voice. And then granted, he does grab her and he's a little bit over the top. He says like the F word or whatever, I think, from what I remember. So he is a little over the top, but he's not a bad dad. Like, they portray him all through the movie as a good dad who just has like barely a slight temper. That's it. Like, through the whole movie, he's a good man. He's not a bad dude at all. So that's the flaw with the movie, is that this is supposed to be like a message for like toxic masculinity or whatever, and like men's like primordial side or whatever coming back up in the metaphor of this wolfman type creature. If it's supposed to be that, the guy needs to be a little bit more in between the areas. The problem is they portray him mostly as good, so it's like, well, this guy doesn't really have any toxic masculinity. He's not really a problem. He's a good father. His daughter loves him. He does mostly everything. His wife stays working all day, takes care of the kid all day, bonds with the kid. He's a good dad. There's nothing really that bad about the dude. So it comes off as not earned, like this whole idea when you get to the end of the movie and he's eventually finally transformed after he got bit by his dad when they go to visit like his dad's old place or whatever, his old property. He gets, well, not bit, he gets scratched. And eventually, by the end, when he finally like gets in there fully transforming, after he like sacrifices himself basically, or tries to like kill his own dad or whatever, so to protect his family. So even when he's transforming, he's still a good guy. He's never portrayed as bad, and that's kind of the problem here. They never portray it in a sense to where he comes off believable, like he has any kind of like darkness in him or anything. But they do this really ham-fisted line where the wife was like, after he runs outside, he's like, his dad had it and he passed it on to daddy. And it's like they're trying to give that metaphor of like passing on like the violent traits or whatever, and it's they pretty much say it, but it doesn't work. It's not earned because the dad never demonstrates any violent traits. He just has like a slight temper that's like barely there in like 2 scenes. That's it. So it's not earned. We do get some cool scenes though of like from the werewolf's point of view, as the dad's changing into a werewolf. We get like him seeing things in wolf vision. That was cool. I like the scene where he notices that his super hearing is starting to show up or whatever, and he goes up into the upstairs and it's like a spider walking on the wall, and he thought it was like the other werewolf outside that was like climbing on the house and shit. That was cool. By the time you get to the end or whatever, the dad's like finally fully transformed after he's killed his own dad by biting his throat out, which is it was kind of a tame sequence. He's like bit his throat out and he's like chasing his family at the end, and it's in daylight by the end. It all happens over one night, which I think was a mistake. It would have been better if it was like a few days and he was like kind of slowly transforming and he got more inside of his mind as it was happening. Which they do give you a little bit of that, of how he can't hear what other people are saying and everything, but at the same time, it would have been better to do it more slower instead of just doing it over one night. So he's got him cornered up in like that same hunting like tree hut or whatever, and he climbs up there and he freezes for a minute. He never tries to attack his family, and the little girl's like, Daddy just wants the pain to stop or whatever, he just wants it to end, meaning he wants them to kill him or whatever. You get that idea. So then he like lunges at him and she shoots him, the mom does, and he falls down and of course dies, and that's the end of him. But you get the idea that possibly he like lunged at him on purpose so that she would shoot him. Like, that's the vibe that I got, like he wanted to be taken out. So he's never really a threat to his wife or his daughter. He loves them pretty much through the whole movie. I'm sorry if you hear dogs barking in the background. I do these videos a lot of times outside, and my neighbors have a lot of dogs. But yeah, so he never comes off as like a real threat to him or whatever. He just kind of, it makes sense why they'd be a little unnerved around him or whatever when he's transforming and shit, but he never comes off as like violent towards him. So he's dying or whatever, and he was telling him about this place or whatever. It looked really pretty, and it's why it would be great to be up in the mountains or whatever. And it gets to the end of the movie, and they're just kind of staring, and then the camera cuts over to show what the wife and daughter are staring at, and it's like this wide open field or whatever. And so the movie just kind of ends. Overall, this is like a 2.5 out of 4. Like, if I had to give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, this would be like a weak thumbs down. It's not a bad movie, it's just kind of mediocre. The werewolves don't look good. Like, the father one I could kind of deal with. It's okay for what this is going for, which is trying to be like a grounded take on it. Trying to be like an elevated horror movie, which is what the Invisible Man one tried to be. The Invisible Man one did it better because even though I didn't love that one, I did like it. It was like a 3 out of 4. It was good. It just wasn't great. But that one did it better because it stuck more to like the simple metaphor of just like an abusive husband or whatever. This one, it's just kind of clunky in its messaging and what it's going for. It's just not. It tries to do more, I think, than what Lee Liddell is like capable of in terms of writing. So overall, it's all right. This is a forgettable movie that I won't remember in a few days. it's worth watching if you just want to check something out, if you can find it for cheap or whatever, but it's nothing worth like going out of your way to see. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.